Looking back on the week that was and forward to the week ahead. It's the Fantasy Football Hustle. Here are your hosts, Brian Drake and Dwain McFarland.
All across the fantasy universe, welcome one and all to the Fantasy Football Hustle powered by Pro Football Focus. I'm Brian Drake of FightingChanceFantasy.com, joined as always by my main man, the analytical assassin. It's Dwain McFarland of PFF, the senior fantasy analyst over there. And we are doing a best ball draft over with our pals at Underdog.com. It is the puppy, and you can double your entry over at Underdog, your initial entry up to $100 using promo code HUSTLE. We thank them so much for being part of this. Best Ball Mania, the puppy, every other crazy draft they come up with. They've got other sports. It's not just football. Use promo code HUSTLE, double your initial entry up to $100. Come play with Dwain and I all summer long. So Dwain, we're on the board here doing this as a podcast. Should be a lot of fun. I'm trying to see. I am at the 1-8. Where are you?
I'm at 111. So we drafted one earlier, and I was at the 1-8, and you were at the 1-9. So we have a little experience, just drafting down from this end. But the draft did just kick off. Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, first 3 picks off the board. Pretty standard. Pretty standard.
We'll get the draft board up for everybody who watches along on YouTube. Appreciate all you folks who hang out with us at the Fantasy Football Hustle YouTube channel. And we've got that on the board. All right. I will be on the clock next here at the 1-8. Let's see how crazy I want to get here. I love CD Lamb this year. I'm going to take CD Lamb here at the 1-8. I'm not going to try to force a stack with Dak later, but I think CD Lamb has a chance to be the wide receiver 1 in fantasy this year.
Yeah, I agree. I go Diggs there because there's a chance Lamb comes back, right? And so you could start Diggs and Lamb. So it's on me right now. And I need some exposure to Dalvin Cook. I don't have any yet this season. So I'm going to go ahead and take Dalvin Cook. And I just hate you because my plan was Dalvin Cook and CD Lamb. So up yours, Drake.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, it's fine. You're trying to win this league.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. And I just lost. Oh, my gosh. I'm trying to find where my screen is. My screen just totally went away. I have no idea where my screen is for the show. So that's great. So you're on the clock here again, Dwain, right?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was looking at your screen. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead here. Oops, I don't want that. Yeah, I'm actually going to go with a running back start. I usually don't do this, but I want to see what happens here. I just wasn't crazy about going with Debo or Mike Evans yet. I don't have any Joe Mixon exposure so far. That was basically, a little bit of value on him, ADP of 13. I got him at pick 14. So I'm starting off with 2 players that I don't have a lot of exposure to with Dalvin Cook and with Joe Mixon. But I like the way that these 2 guys stack up late in the season as well. There's plenty of options for me later in the draft versus Green Bay for Dalvin Cook. And I stay open with Joe Mixon, Cincinnati versus Buffalo. So there's some opportunity for me there. I toyed with going with Aaron Jones because I would get Aaron Jones versus Dalvin in week 17. But I've got plenty of Jones exposure. And so I can save that for another day.
So we're back on the board for your boy here. And I would have taken Mark Andrews. He's off the board. So I'm going to take Aaron Jones. I just want to be a little different. I don't have much exposure to Mark Andrews. I felt like maybe I'll get a piece of him. It's not the greatest matchup. Again, if you have to get to the finals, people often talk like, hey guys, I'm going to go win this league in week 17, but you got to get to week 17, folks. You got to get through weeks 1 through 14 in the puppy, 15, 16. They're all individual playoff weeks. And then of course, week 17 for all the cash. All right. Let's see how we're looking here on the board. Screens look good. Glad everybody's hanging out with us here on the podcast. Make sure you go over to pff.com. Use promo code HUSTLE. Save 25% off any subscription plan over there. You can get some of Dwain's great work, including an article he just did on can you predict wide receiver one breakouts. And I think we're going to get one this year with Mr. CD Lamb. So go over there, read the article, use promo code HUSTLE, save 25%. And after you do that and you feel all smart, go over to Underdog Fantasy, use promo code HUSTLE, and we're going to double your entry fee initially up to $100. It's first time deposits only here. Don't try to get cute on us here.
And so right now, like as we're sitting here waiting, it's coming back. It's 9 picks from me, closer to you, and draft's really moving. 30-second clock. What I'm doing is I'm filling up my queue now with all the Packers stacks against Dalvin Cook. I'm filling up my queue with all the Cincinnati stacks versus Buffalo, and I'm not using my queue to draft from. I'm just using my queue so that I've got these guys starred over in the main player list. And so an easy way to do that, there's a little search button. You can just type in the name of the team, right, that you're wanting. So right now I'm just typing in Bills, and then I can look at the top Bills options. I've got Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox, Devin Singletary, James Cook, Jamison Crowder, all starred. Not because I'm drafting them with my next pick, but like just to keep that in the back of my mind as I continue to go through the draft, to leave myself open in tiebreaker situations to create some of these game stacks in week 17. Whenever you end up in a large, you got to jump into basically it's like playing in a GPP that last week, right? Not a huge one, but I mean, you've got a lot of players. Whereas the advancing rounds before that, you're in much smaller groupings of players. And so you can still use stacks for those other weeks as well. But the big week is week 17.
I was going to take Javonte Williams, and he just got sniped from underneath me. Damn it. So that leaves me on the board with Keenan Allen. He's a guy I haven't drafted much at all this summer. But look at that week 17 Sunday night affair at home against the LA Rams. There's going to be a ton of points in that game. So a lot of those players are going to go early. If you want to get a piece of Rams and Chargers, you got to get them in the first few rounds. A lot of them don't hang around. But I'd be happy to get Keenan Allen on the squad.
Yeah, and there's a chance you could still grab an Allen Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be an option. You could get a Tyler Higbee late. So the board really just kind of dried up right in front of me. I was hoping for James Conner. I was hoping for Kyle Pitts as my consolation prize. I'm going to go ahead here now, and I'm going to take Jalen Waddle from the Miami Dolphins, who I just love Waddle. What Waddle did as rookie, yeah, he's got to now deal with Deebo Samuel, but, Waddle was a second-round pick. Now that Deebo Samuel's there, you're getting him at the end of the third. I'm fine with that. I think a lot of people are just totally fading Waddle, and I think it's a bad move, honestly, on their part. Like, it's really hard for receivers to do what Jalen Waddle did as a rookie. Sorry, not Deebo, but Tyreek Hill going over to Miami. I don't know why I said Deebo Samuel. Okay, it's back on me now. So I've got, let's see here. I'm actually going to go. Come on. All right.
5 seconds.
It's not working. My computer's not working.
Oh, boy.
All right, DJ Moore. So that's the one problem. Like when you work the queue the way I'm doing, if I were to miss that pick and not be able to click on DJ Moore, it was who I wanted. It was easy. Like that's who I knew I wanted, but it was locked up for whatever reason, and I couldn't hit draft. So like Kirk Cousins was at the top of my queue. So the one thing with working your queue this way, like you got to make sure, like if something freezes up on your computer or anything like that, like it can be majorly problematic to your team. Because I would have just like flushed $5 away. So not maybe the strategy everybody wants to use. I'm happy setting up my teams that way. So I've started with 2 running backs, 2 receivers. I've got Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon. I've got Jalen Waddle and DJ Moore. And so now I'm filling up my queue with Miami. I'm filling up with potential Patriots for later against Miami. And then I'm doing the same for Carolina with Tampa Bay Bucks.
The guy in front of me is already timed out. So his time on the toilet must have been faster than he anticipated because he's already out of this draft. I'm going to go Cam Akers. So again, I needed another running back. So now I've got Aaron Jones, Cam Akers, who are just 2, in my mind, high-end running backs who can be top 10 RBs for the whole season to get me to the playoffs. But also we're talking about that week 17 playoff schedule. Now I've got Cam Akers on one side. I've got Keenan Allen on the other. My squad so far, Aaron Jones, Cam Akers, CeeDee Lamb, and Keenan Allen. Let's see. These drafts just fly by here, man. We're so happy you guys are hanging out with us. And we're going to be doing these drafts all summer long. Go over to our YouTube page. And by the time you're listening to this, we already did another Underdog draft with a lot of great content about how we drafted, why we drafted, roster construction. We even spent about 20 minutes after the draft talking about our teams and what we liked and didn't like about each other's teams. So go over to the Fantasy Football Hustle YouTube page. Check that stuff out. Looking at some of the builds here, the guy at number 1, Dwain, he went Jonathan Taylor, and then he's just now hammering home on these wide receivers. Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Deontay Johnson, Amari Cooper. Really that kind of hero RB approach, locking in the one guy and just banging away at wide receiver. The guy all the way at the other end at 12 is doing the same thing, although he went Travis Kelce and then followed that up with Adams, Judy, Cortland Sutton. So for the guys listening here, what do you think about that kind of one running back or tight end, whoever, and then just crushing early wide receiver?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I basically did that last draft. I got Aaron Jones in the second round, went after the receivers, and I still was able to come back later and get Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Still landed Cordarrelle Patterson, got an upside pick in Rachaad White, got Gus Edwards late, which is great for best ball format. So yeah, it's an absolutely doable strategy. It's the one I'm the most comfortable with. But the thing is, I think most drafters at this point have become most comfortable with that strategy. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily going to be that contrarian. You're probably going to run into quite a few builds that look the same. So you got to make sure that you're doing some correlation in your plays for later, in your stacks for later in the season. It's on you.
All right. I'm back up on the clock at pick 56. I got a little bit of value here at ADP with Allen Robinson. Yep. Yeah. So that's back-to-back drafts. I've taken Allen Robinson. So now I've got Allen Robinson, Cam Akers to go along with that Keenan Allen stack. So in my queue, I already have, I have Dak Prescott queued up because I want to get him with Juju. I think Dak's going to have a huge year. But I also want to see if I can get my hands on Matthew Stafford.
Don't time out here, dude. I want George Kittle at pick 59, ADP of 48. This guy's about to time out.
Oh, he didn't. He took Juju.
Yeah, he blew it. I'll take Kittle. Sorry, whoever fully loaded is. Like, you got a little symbol by your dog. So we at least know you draft a lot. We don't know if you're any good. You may be a friend of the hustle. So we love you. Thank you for George Kittle. I love it. Kittle's not a guy you want to reach on, but man, Kittle can still be the tight end overall number 1. Like he's hyper athletic, plays in a great scheme where he gets a lot of mismatches. So anyway, it's already back on me. Didn't have very much time to talk about all that. I'm not feeling. I'm going to go ahead and take Jalen Hurts. So now I've got a difference maker at quarterback with Hurts. I've got a difference maker at tight end with Kittle. And I've got my 2 backs already with Cook and Mixon, and wide receivers, Jalen Waddle and DJ Moore. I got a lot of work left to do here at receiver, but by having the quarterback and having the tight end done, I don't have to take another one, for a while if I don't want to. And I'm in a position where I can really hammer on the wide receivers if I want right now. We'll see what they look like. But I was really happy to get that value on Kittle. Anytime you get a guy sliding around or more past ADP, especially a talent like Kittle, like you're just kind of sitting there with your fingers crossed that it's coming back to you.
All right, I'm back up on the clock now. Guys on the board: Mooney, Michael Thomas, Elijah Moore. God, I don't really like any of these guys, to be honest. You know where I'm going to go, and it's a tad early by ADP. And I know you and I just talked about this, is don't reach for guys super early, but I'm going to go CEH right here. Let's assume that he's the guy in Kansas City, explosive offense, going to catch some passes there. All the guys behind him are gone. So kind of just the CEH show. And as my third running back with Aaron Jones, Cam Akers, I'll take CEH. Oh, by the way, in those money weeks when we're looking at Kansas City, they get to play the Denver Broncos. Hello, points galore.
Yeah, I love CEH. I definitely would have let him go, though. I would have let him come back to me. Like, I want to be careful. Like, I'm fine reaching, especially in later rounds, but early on, like, I'm trying to let this value set the front end of my board up, and then I am more willing to reach, like, once I have the front end of my board set up, like, because I want to hit a monster draft, and to hit a monster draft, you gotta let them go by and let them come back.
But look, I'm looking at those guys though, and who am I going to take there? Elijah Moore or Darnell Mooney. I mean, Michael Thomas, I don't know if he's even going to play. I mean, I'm looking at a locked-in RB1 on an elite offense, or I could
but
take a guy on the Bears who maybe catches
remember
70
this
balls.
format, though. This format, receivers go so early. It's the format, man. So, yes, I would have taken one of those receivers and waited to see if CEH came back to me, because a consolation prize to CEH is Miles Sanders. Similar kind of scenario, So, I mean, I like the pick. I love CEH. I'm rising on him, but I don't want to overpay for him because he also has just never shown us anything. He's not been able to beat out freaking Darrell Williams. He's not been able to beat out Jerick McKinnon. And that's for 2 seasons as with a first round draft capital behind him. Now he's playing.
Remember last year too, I guess he had an injury that we didn't really know about.
Well, I get it, but he's never been explosive, and he's not explosive. He's never shown to be good targets per route run out of the backfield. So I like him, but I'm also not going to start reaching too much on him because there are a lot of red flags in his profile, like more than normal. We're buying into him because he plays for the Chiefs, and they could have to reconstruct their whole offense this next year. And if they do, one of the easiest ways to create passes, for a player schematically is the running back, right? Because you're against linebackers, you're against safeties, they can be behind the line of scrimmage, you can get screen passes to them. Like those are the pluses for CEH. But if I'm just trying to build an absolute monster that can win this whole thing, I just don't want to reach over a round on a player. Not this early anyway.
Into round 7, cruising through here. Coming back to my team in a moment. I've got Lamb, Allen Robinson. My running backs are Aaron Jones, Cam Akers, and CEH. I'm on the clock next, and I don't want to lose him. So if I can get him, where'd he go? Oh, Dak Prescott just went. Son of a gun. Right before
I love
me.
it when that happens to me. Yeah.
Jeepers. So I'm going to let Stafford go by. Stafford's ADP is 92. I'm going to pick 80. I'm not going to force it here.
You got
next round. If he comes back through, we'll see what happens. Let's look
at you have an easy pick here, man.
I'm going to look here. I mean, TJ Hawkinson's still on the board. That's the guy I'm going to take right there. Is that who you have taken?
No, I would have taken Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks was.
I know you're a Burks guy.
Well, and he's slipping past ADP. Like, so you're almost at a round discount on him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you just want to take those shots on young players that you like when they slide past ADP, man. It's I don't want to miss them.
Let's see if he gets by you here at pick 83. Oh, he just went right in front of you.
I knew he wouldn't. That's what I'm saying. He won't make it. Like, it just doesn't happen. But it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and take Hunter Renfrow, a player that I've been wanting to get more exposure to. And guess what? He plays George Kittle in Week 17. Tiebreaker.
Dwain's going to be coming back up on the clock here. His squad, Cook and Mixon to start off. Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, George Kittle, Jalen Hurts, Hunter Renfrow. Good start for him. And he's going to be back up here in a minute. With a build like this, Dwain, and I like what you're saying. You're just letting ADP kind of fall to you. I feel like you're getting better guys fall to you than I am, and we're only 3 picks apart.
No, well, you had one there with Burks, and it was fine going with Hawkinson, but I'd rather take the ADP drop on an explosive young playmaker that we know could really have a big year, in Tennessee. Not that Hawkinson couldn't either, but I really like keeping my view like that I'm looking at. I never, almost until later in the draft, have it isolated down to where I'm looking at just one position. I've got quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, all up because I really want to be looking at that potential ADP value. And so I took Sky Moore with my next pick, and then now, give him what you got going.
I took Matthew Stafford, so that kind of locks up that Week 17 issue I've got going there with the Chargers and the Rams, which should be a fun one. But Sky Moore is a guy that you're really high on this year. Give folks the breakdown. Why do you think Sky Moore could be maybe that wide receiver, maybe the wide receiver 1 for all we know in that situation? And why are you banking on a player like that, a rookie? Not necessarily we have to talk about him as the player, but I mean that situation with the quarterback and the offense and the play caller. I mean, Sky Moore, it could be any name in there. And it's, hey, I want to bank on the guy in this situation.
Yeah. So for me with Sky Moore, number one, I think he was one of the most NFL-ready wide receivers coming into the league. His yards per route run on staple routes, which are the routes that make up about 60% of what an NFL offense runs. It's your slants, your hitches, your crossing patterns. The go route is included in there. Like Sky Moore graded above every other receiver in this class. Number 2, Marquise Valdes-Scantling has shown us absolutely nothing despite playing with Aaron Rodgers. I used to be an MVS guy, but like at some point, like, you just got to move on. I think that the Chiefs overpaid for him. I have not seen
10 million.
I have not seen anything in his profile that says that I think MVS is going to break out now. Now, he does play for the Chiefs, so fine. You want some exposure to MVS, get it. But then I look at Juju. Juju, yes, has been a top wide receiver before, but his yards per route run, targets per route run, everything down consistently each of the last 4 seasons. Like Juju is basically a shell of his former self. He's an underneath slot receiver who doesn't do a lot after the catch like he used to when he was younger in his career. So for me, Sky Moore is the guy that really looks to have the most upside, and is the guy that can, potentially pop out, run all the routes, play inside, play outside. And I don't want to completely forget about Mecole Hardman just because, he basically was only playing receiver 2 years in college, before, he was thrust into a NFL situation. But I think Sky Moore just has a real opportunity. I know he's going higher than what a lot of people want, but I mean, look, he's going around the same range as a lot of these other rookie wide receivers. Yes, he was a 2nd-round pick instead of a 1st-round pick, but he checks enough boxes for me and he gets to play with Mahomes. There's a chance, man. Sky Moore is the number 2 receiver on this team behind Travis Kelce. He's just the guy I want to put my chip on.
Cruising through round 9. A couple of rookies off the board. Kenneth Walker, Christian Watson. Watson's an interesting case, man. There's a lot of bodies there in Green Bay. Someone's got to emerge there. There's the Randall Cobbs of the world. And
I'm similar to him as I am on Sky Moore. I'm much more confident in Sky Moore. Sky Moore's profile is 3x what Christian Watson's is. But to your point, like if I'm going to put a chip on somebody in Green Bay, it's probably going to be Christian Watson. I'm not taking him that early. That was a reach. Like Christian Watson's a 10th round pick. But like if you're setting up a certain stack, somebody might reach a little bit. So
I took Robert Woods here in the 9th round, pretty much right at ADP, because if you look at what I'm doing here with my Cowboys and Titans, so now I've got a couple pieces in that game. CeeDee Lamb and coming back with Robert Woods. And Robert Woods, for all intents and purposes in my mind, is going to be the wide receiver 1 in Tennessee. I get they drafted Treylon Burks, but he is a rookie. He's kind of unpolished in his time at Arkansas. Robert Woods is a really good wide receiver. If he comes in and he plays and he's healthy, there's no reason in my mind he can't catch 75, 80 balls.
Yeah, I think that's basically a ceiling. My problem with Robert Woods is I just don't see a ceiling. He's a 20 to 21% targets per route run guy playing in a run-heavy offense. His yards after the catch are gone. He's been sapped. He's coming off of a late season injury. He's going into his age 31, almost age 30 season. He's pretty much red flags all over the place for me. My exposure will be far under the field. Even if he does lead the team in the Titans in receiving, I don't think there's any upside. Like, whereas if Treylon Burks leads the team in receiving, it could be huge because of his ability to run after the catch, right? It could be, 1,500 yard type season. It's on me here. Let's see. I need another receiver here. All right, let's go ahead and do. I haven't done this yet. I'm going to take Jameson Williams. I don't have much exposure to Jameson. I don't know what that's going to look like early in the season, but it could look like really good late in the season. So his ADP is 115, took him at 110. Before that, I took James Cook as my 3rd running back. That stacks up against Joe Mixon in week 17. I really like James Cook a lot. I think he's very similar to what we talk about with a guy like Chase Edmonds, what we thought maybe with Michael Carter last year. Now you got Breece Hall, but Cook is just explosive playmaker who can also catch the ball. So those are 2 things I love to be drafting in these type of rounds at the running back spot. And then Jameson Williams, obviously just another young player. One of these rookies, right, is going to have a big season. So I like getting some access to Williams where I haven't so far.
Every time I'm on the clock, I hate the players available to me. I mean, I'm looking here now. I'm debating between Derek Carr, because I need another quarterback, but I have no kind of relationship here with this roster to Derek Carr.
It's okay. You can still build that relationship. I know you already have Stafford, so.
Oh, God. You know what? I don't have any Derek Carr. I hate this team already. Go listen to the other show. My team is so much better in that draft.
Pivot, man. Go the way you want to go.
I don't like any of these players.
And so part of it is also just getting used to the player pool, feeling. But you're also this drafting, man, forces you to get your convictions around players, right? Mm-hmm. So I get it.
Yeah. So I mean, if you want to get any part of this Derek Carr scenario, Waller, he's already gone. Renfro, you took.
Yeah, that's the problem with Carr. Where he goes, all the other guys you would want with him are already gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like he goes after all the skill players, right? So that is problematic. Adams goes, Waller goes, Renfro goes. Then you get Carr, after all that, and there's nothing. Some of these other quarterbacks, that there's still some other receivers you might want access to later that you can still get, and there's not a fourth receiver even on the Raiders that I even care to look at, right? There's not the backfield behind Josh Jacobs is so muddy, right? We don't know that Kenyon Drake will even be the passing down back all the time. Like, what's Zamir White going to do? How often is he going to be involved? So I think the sneaky one at the end of the draft, if you just don't have anything to do, is Kenyon Drake. I think he's still yards per route run, targets per route run, still really strong. So
paying him a ton of dough.
Yeah. So like he's an easy one that you can just kind of, just slip him under the pillow. You may, Tooth Fairy, dollar, pull a dollar out from under the pillow. That's about all. So it's not $100 bill, Drake, but you might find $1 with Kenyon Drake.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm going through trying to star some some running backs here, just some guys that I might be interested in later in the draft. And boy, they are flying off the board left and right here. When we did an FFPC draft, which is doing huge numbers over on YouTube, I really encourage you guys to go check that draft out, where Dwain drafted the Hardway draft for $500,000 to the winner. Alexander Madison, I believe, went off the board in like round 7 or 8. And here, his ADP here is 123. In best ball, it seems it's so different where people aren't pulling the trigger on him like they were in the high stakes community. Any thought to that?
Well, one, they get pushed down because the receivers push up in this format, right? Mm-hmm. Over on FFPC, you start two running backs, 2 receivers, 1 tight end, and 2 flex, and it's tight end premium. So it's just a different format. Oh my God, really? Like I finally want to draft Jarvis Landry because I have Jalen Hurts and some dude takes him.
I was going to draft him. I love talking about Devontae Parker. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 in New England, just because you read some of these camp reports, he's a big body guy. He's showing out. I think he's just much more talented than Jacoby Myers. I know the draft we did, you love some of the underlying metrics with Jacoby Myers, but there's a reason they went out and spent capital on Parker. And Madison just goes right before. Yeah, you're up. He goes right after me.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm good with passing on Madison here. I've got 3 backs. I've got 5 receivers, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end. So I mean, I can be pretty flexible here. I am really thinking about this is a pick where I'm gonna go ahead and take. I'm gonna go ahead and take Jamison Crowder. It's a tad ahead of ADP, but not enough that it bothers me. But Crowder gives me that Buffalo versus Cincinnati late season stack. So now I have Jamison Crowder and James Cook versus Joe Mixon. So it was close. The other idea was going Rachaad White there. I do need a Tampa Bay Buck, and Gronk had just gone off earlier in the round. I would like to have a Buccaneer because I have DJ Moore, and so Rachaad White goes at the turn. So it was a situation where I knew I was probably losing something.
You're on the clock now.
Yeah, I'm on the clock now. I'm just looking. All right. I'm going to go ahead and grab another upside young back and Isaiah Spiller sitting behind Austin Eckler. Spiller, we know, had an every down profile, as far as what he could do at the collegiate level. Yeah, he did share time with other guys, but he was involved in the passing game, also was explosive rusher, came out, had a bad combine, And it just sunk his value, man. It destroyed his value. So I'm happy to go ahead and grab Spiller here.
I'm going to be coming up on the clock next, and I just look at the list of guys, and I'm just like, ugh. 4 rounds later, I'd love to take any of these guys, but now I'm like, I don't really want any of these dudes. Pick 137 overall. I mean, I could get Irv Smith if I wanted a second tight end. Kind of goes along with that Packers play. I've already got Aaron Jones on one team. Nyheim Hines is another guy I'm kind of eyeballing. And let's see. Oh, where the hell did Nyheim Hines just go? Well, Nyheim Hines vanished off my board. So I'm going to take Irv Smith before I time out. I literally went to pick him. I clicked this. He vanished. Like a fart in the wind. Where the hell did you go? So anyway, took Irv Smith there. So that's just right around ADP. I know you've been big on Irv Smith for a few years now. 4 straight tight ends. Gesicki, who I had in my queue, Freiermuth, Irv Smith, and Bobby Tonyan. When you get this late in the draft, Dwayne, and you're looking at the end of Cole Kmet, so now we had 5 kind of mid-level tight ends go off here. Let's talk to the people about when you're building these drafts. If you don't get, like you got a George Kittle early on, are you just taking a bunch of shots late at these sort of plays?
Well, I still want access to upside, and I'm correlating. I'm letting correlation help drive, my tight end picks as well. So, like, I want the upside to guys like Alberto. You could say Pat Freiermuth has some of that. You could argue David Njoku has some as well. But I think Irv Smith and Alberto are my 2 favorites that I get together a lot. And they seem to work out as well because I end up with a lot of Green Bay players versus Minnesota. So it works. And then if you have anybody from Kansas City, the Denver stack versus Alberto is good. So, and Alberto just now goes off the board. So that's, I was kind of in a tough spot there. I could have easily let Crowder go, and I could have went with Rachaad White and Alberto because I've got Sky Moore, from Kansas City, but not something I felt like I had to force. Like, look, you're picking things one way or the other, and that's just the way it goes. And there's not a ton of value falling in this draft, at least so far. I got the Kittle value early. I know there are a couple players in this draft that are reaching all the time. I'm noticing that. And I don't really like their rosters either. But
you're drafting with one of them.
You've reached on a couple. I wouldn't say you just got to get more comfortable with some of these picks. You're just not there yet.
No.
And it's early, man. That's why we're doing them. It's early, and this happens all the time, to people. So you get on the board and your convictions are getting tested. And it's like, okay, what am I doing here? I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
And the problem is because when the board gets really flat, Drake, and you got a bunch of guys that you think are the same and you're having to decide between them, right? That's always a tricky spot to be.
No question. I was going to take Nyheim Hines right there. I'm back on the clock, 15 seconds. Geez, I don't like any of these dudes either. Gosh almighty. Where am I going to go? You know what? I'm going to go back to the well. I'm a hair early again. I'm going to go back to Robbie Anderson. I think his ADP is going to rise. He's about 160, 168. I took him at 152. So again, earlier than that. But I look at everybody else around there. Can Robbie Anderson be a better player this year, especially in those spike weeks, than Jalen Tolbert, DJ Chark, Corey Davis? I mean, he's a starting wide receiver. Some of these guys are like 3rd string on their own shitty teams. George Pickens. So I think his ADP is just off, to be honest. Dwayne's on the clock. Dwayne's last few picks: Jameson Williams, Jamison Crowder, Isaiah Spiller, and now he's back on the clock. About 20 seconds to go.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn here. I'm looking at Gainwell, but I really want Khalil Herbert, and I just don't want to let it sneak by. Khalil Herbert is just one of my favorite cuffs right now. To a player in David Montgomery that hasn't just really been very special, to be honest. Like, he's been a meh kind of back. So I feel like injury isn't the only path, to Khalil Herbert having a role. That also gives me a potential late season week 17 stack of Khalil Herbert versus Jameson Williams. And so I love having these handcuff type plays for late in the season. And it is already back on me again. Wow, that was quick.
Man, this goes fast.
Yeah, let's see here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take Corey Davis. I needed another receiver just because I started off, kind of slow on receivers. That's basically a pick right at ADP, but I just needed another. I needed another body. Corey Davis, still a former first-round pick. He's got Garrett Wilson. He's got, obviously Elijah Moore. I like those two players better than Davis, but his underlying data points were still strong last year. Yards per route run, targets per route run were still pretty good. He's kind of past that breakout phase of his career, but look, a lot of different things can happen. Davis could come through with some spike weeks. Davis could also come through if Garrett Wilson or Elijah Moore don't come through, or if they get hurt. Like, he's still a talented player. So I like to continue to stack talented players. I considered Gainwell because I do have Jalen Hurts, but the one thing we know Hurts really doesn't want to do is throw the running backs. So it just, I'll do it if it comes back again. But having started with Cook and Mixon, and coming back with James Cook, I've got the Cook brothers on this team. It just didn't make as much sense for my build. And at some point, I've got to grab another quarterback and tight end. So we are in round 14, heading into, right here it'll be we're pick 14, round 14, pick 9 right now. It's headed back towards Drake.
Yeah, I took Tyler Higbee. So now I have 3 tight ends on this team: TJ Hawkinson, Irv Smith, and Tyler Higbee. So that to me means I'm only going to take the 2 quarterbacks. I'm only going to have Stafford and Derek Carr, because you can get real out of whack if you try to go 3 and 3. So, I don't know necessarily week to week. Hawkinson, Smith, maybe one doesn't come through. Higbee, we'll see what he can do. And also, I like adding more pieces to that Sunday nighter, week 17. Rams at Chargers. Higbee's a guy who, hey, who knows, he could go off and then all of a sudden score 2 touchdowns in that week and it wins it for you. And also, you got Odell Beckham, who's not there, maybe for the whole season, but most people think he's going to re-sign. So maybe Higbee gets a little bit bigger role, roaming the middle of the field. Into week. So what do you think about that, Dwain? So I went with the 3 tight ends there. Would you have gone 3 tight ends? Would you have taken Higbee? I mean, that was at ADP. What would you have done if you were?
Who are you? And you have Irv Smith and who else?
Hawkinson.
Yeah, I think with those 3, it's fine. Because Hawkinson, we have enough doubt, just because he probably just is what he is right now, which is like a low end tight end 1. He just hasn't flashed. He's earning some targets, but he hasn't flashed enough as far as an ability to do things after the catch, with the football to really demonstrate a high ceiling. So if Hawkinson's my first tight end, I don't mind having 3. If I've got a really good tight end leading the way, like a Pitts or a Kelsey, Kittle, any of the Waller, even any of those guys, I usually only go 2. Not to, you never say never. That's one of the key things with these drafts. You never say never.
And I went J.D. McKissick with my next pick. I needed another running back. Took him again. I'm a little ahead of ADP, but I want to make sure that I got him. I like McKissick over some of these. In this area, it's a lot of just backup guys where it's hope and a prayer. But J.D. McKissick's a guy with a role. So, let's say he goes out and he's catching passes all over the field. Again, I got to get to the playoffs. Maybe he's a guy that helps me get there. We know that Antonio Gibson is not exactly the picture of health. Commanders at home against the Browns, week 17. So, Dwain, you just went and took Hayden Hurst. Is this the second draft in a row you took Hayden Hurst, and now you're back on the clock again? What is Hayden Hurst paying you?
No, he's not paying me yet. Hang on, it's my pick. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to go with Mac Jones here. Go ahead and get my second quarterback. And I like, I went with, again, like tiebreaker, going with the stack. This is my backup quarterback. So New England is playing against Miami, and I've got Jalen Waddle in week 17. So Mac Jones was my pick there. But yeah, for Hayden Hurst, it was just a game stack. You're just looking for spike weeks out of Hayden Hurst. I already have George Kittle. I've got the Buffalo Cincinnati game kind of stacked up now. I've got Hayden Hurst and Mixon from Cincinnati. From Buffalo, I've got James Cook and Jamison Crowder. So the other thing to think about those big potential shootout games is it doesn't always have to be the superstars, right? You can stack some of these other ancillary players and stack the game in ways that you may think other players may not. Like, how many people are really going to have Joe Mixon and Hayden Hurst stacked in that game? So it's a game everybody wants a piece of, but how many people are going to have Mixon and Hurst? How many people are going to have Jamison Crowder versus Jamison Crowder and James Cook, versus Mixon and Hurst? Probably not that many. So there's just a lot of options on the way that you can work it.
My pick in the 16th round was Sammy Watkins. Is it exciting? No. This is the second pick in a row I've taken Sammy Watkins. So you're doubling up on Hayden Hurst. I'm doubling up on Sammy Watkins. We both need to seek professional help. But as I said before, Sammy Watkins, if he stays healthy, there's reason to believe he can be on the field a ton. And if he becomes Aaron Rodgers' favorite receiver, I mean, he could be the most explosive guy out there. He's a veteran. He's talented. He knows how to run routes. It's not like he's some scrub. So Sammy Watkins,
he could easily, like, if Sammy Watkins ends up leading that team, right, it probably just means it's getting spread around all over. But, like, Sammy Watkins leading the team looks like a 20% target share, but that's not bad for where you're getting it. I think we know Sammy at this point, it's never going to be a 25-30% target share guy. He's not good enough. But to get him, where you get him, and knowing that Christian Watson is so raw, Randall Cobb is so old, Alan Lazard has never really proven anything. He's never had a good yards per route run season, never had a good targets per route run season. He's never really been able to generate much on his own, yet now everybody thinks, oh, wow, they're just going to give it all to Alan Lazard. I would prefer to draft Sammy Watkins in the 17th round as to Alan Lazard in round 8 or 9 or wherever he's going.
No question about it. No question about it.
Most likely, they end up being the same, to be honest. They both get 17 to 18% of the targets. That's probably what's about to happen. Tanya will get 14%. Cobb will get 12%. Christian Watson will get 16%. That's the type of season we're probably headed for with Green Bay. Just remember, folks, just because there's a bunch of targets available because Devontae Adams left doesn't mean that any one of these guys is going to step up and take them all.
I'm trying to pick one of my last two players here. Underdog Puppies, these are 18-round drafts and $500,000 in prizes for this. It's a ton of fun. These drafts are so fast. You guys should totally get in on this. Use our promo code HUSTLE, and we're gonna double your initial deposit up to $100. All right, I got 2 picks left here. We're 200 picks into the draft. Which way am I going to go? I'm looking between either Sony Michel or Kenyon Drake. I've already got Derek Carr. Let's go Kenyon Drake here. Wasn't sure if he's going to be there on the next pick. If they're throwing the ball over the field, they get the 49ers at home week 17. Kenyon Drake could be the passing down back. And again, Josh Jacobs, not the picture of health. Dwayne, you got 2 picks left here on this turn. Who you got eyed up?
That's what I'm working my queue right now. I just put Ross in, and he just went. Justin Ross for Kansas City. I've got 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 backs. I've got Jamal Williams in here. I probably will take him just because I can do something here. I've already got Khalil Herbert. Like, you could see a late season game where it's Jamal Williams versus Khalil Herbert in that game. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the back. And look, Williams. Look, it's also just pick 203s and ADP of 180. I mean, so it's just easy, to click on him. It does correlate. So now I get Jamal Williams and Jameson Williams, Jamal and Jameson, the Williams brothers. So against the Bears. So where I've got Khalil Herbert. So not a likely thing to hit, but again, I'm not counting on it. I'm still just building my roster and letting some of these other things kind of guide me. If I want to get super crazy here, Drake, I could just go ahead and take Byron Pringle. That would really stack that game up. And I need a receiver. So let me look at these receivers real quick.
Laviska Shenault's available.
The other option would be Isaiah McKenzie, because I've got that. I think I'm going to go with Pringle just because I know he's at least a starter right now on the Bears. Not on an offense I really love. But again, with these late picks, you need something to help you decide between them, right? I mean, the other option would have been going Velus Jones as the rookie. Again, Isaiah McKenzie was in consideration there. I've seen a lot of people taking Taysom Hill because what if he gets to play quarterback this year? It's just a struggle to see it because, we've already got Jameis Winston there, and then we've got Andy Dalton behind him. So, really, how is Taysom Hill going to become the quarterback? I don't. It's like 2 injuries away, but I like the upside of it. If Taysom Hill all of a sudden was the starting quarterback for some reason for the Saints by like week 8, and you got to play him at tight end every week, Drake, holy crap!
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that'd be insane. I'm on the clock here with my last pick. I'm scrolling through wide receiver to see who's around. I'm just going to take, because at this point with this team, who cares? My favorite pick that nobody wants to take. I got to get to the playoffs first. I'm going to bet against an old guy in DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm going to take Antoine Wesley, wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals, who I believe will start for them for the first 6 weeks. And if something happens to Hopkins and he's hurt and he gets a hammy or something, these guys who are out, often happens with them. We'll see if Wesley can do something. It's the 18th round. Who cares? I just wanted to talk about Antoine Wesley for the time being.
Hey,
so
we're gonna do it. 18th round's fine. I look. I think there is a path early in the season where he could help your team. Like I don't doubt that. I think the 3 wide receiver sets to start will be AJ Green, Rondell Moore, and Marquise Brown. I think Wesley will still be the 4th player in that rotation. Then once Hopkins is back, he becomes like the 5th receiver. So, but I could be wrong. Like,
but if they're playing 4 wide all the time, I think he's going to get a lot of time out there at the X with.
Well, they just don't. That when we say play 4 wide all the time, like it's like 20% of snaps, like that. Most teams aren't going to do it more than that. The Cardinals definitely run it. The Cardinals and the Bills. I don't know if the Bills will this year because their receiver room's a little different, but they're 2 of the teams that do it more for sure. So, all right, man. Well, we want to take a quick run through on the teams. You get to go first this time since you picked ahead of me.
All right. I'm waiting for the team to the screen to explode, because that's usually what happens here in Underdog, where it's like you're looking at it and all of a sudden it hasn't done it yet. So I started out CeeDee Lamb, big fan of CeeDee Lamb. My first few rounds, I was really into it. So I got Lamb, Aaron Jones, Keenan Allen, Cam Akers, and then Allen Robinson. So I'm really digging the start here. But again, I kind of.
And you got some value there. I know you were complaining about not getting value, but you did get some value on Keenan Allen. He goes not a ton, like pick 27. You got him at 32.
Yeah, and I'm kind of really boxed into this, this Week 17 game with the Rams and the Chargers. I got a lot of eggs in that basket.
But that's a good one to have. That's a good one though. Yeah, I mean, so you've got Stafford, you've got Akers, you've got Robinson, and then you've got Keenan Allen. Who else do you have from the Chargers? Is that it? Yeah. Oh, and you've also got Higbee on the Rams side. So you were big on the Rams side with Stafford, Akers, Allen Robinson, and Tyler Higbee. I like that. Yeah. And Keenan Allen coming back the other way. I think that's really solid.
And again,
and here's the thing: like those are good players. You're not. Those are players that are good enough to get you there. You just didn't build a stupid stack for Week 17. And those are 2 good teams, and they're players. You got value on Allen Robinson, man. You got him at pick 56 last draft. Like you reached on him. Now this draft, he falls to you like 8 spots past ADP.
Yeah, and looking at my other running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like him this year. I mean, geez Louise, imagine if he scores a few touchdowns, catches and passes out of the backfield. There's nobody behind him. And, it's a team now. There's no more Tyreek Hill. Maybe they lean on him a little more out of the backfield, or they just put the ball in his belly a little bit more. We'll see about that. TJ Hawkinson, at the point, I just felt, hey, he's a guy with top 5 tight end upside. I'm playing for the whole season here. I don't have much that correlates with him in terms of my team.
Okay. We can't correlate everything. You don't have any bears. It's
a good player sometimes.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing I want to emphasize to people. We're talking about the correlations just because trying to get people used to thinking about it. But man, don't pass up really good players just because you're trying to correlate. I mean, some of your roster is going to be correlated. Some of it's not. And you keep mentioning it. You got to get there first. You've got to draft a good team. So really use, the correlations and stuff really more as just tiebreakers later, especially in your later round picks. Don't force yourself. The quickest way to lose is to reach too often. We've seen the teams that reach well past ADP. Like if you look at the research, Hayden Winks and over at Establish the Run. I can't remember who wrote that one. Was it Jack? Yeah, Jack Miller wrote one about it, I think, as well. But just looking at ADP and like when you reach, like it's just, and Adam Harstad's talked about this forever. When you reach all the time, your team sucks. It's just the way it is. The market is actually usually pretty sharp. ADP is the market. You don't want to be a slave to it. But at the same time, like you do not want to be reaching all the time. Again, the further you get into the draft, like I'm saying, like once you're in round, whatever, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, it's way less of a deal, right? At that point, then you may just be trying to say, okay, I've built this front end roster. Now let me just find ways to correlate. I still prefer to make it tiebreakers, but if you want to reach more in that area, I think it's fine, to do it then. But don't do it in your first few rounds. And I thought you did a great job of letting the draft come to you, still getting really good players, and building out a game stack that looks pretty sweet for week 17.
A lot of guys don't really do much of anything for me going forward. But again, you got to get there. Let's say Derek Carr has a massive year with Devontae Adams. There's going to be big weeks there. I don't necessarily need to correlate him. He's just going to have big weeks in the weeks that Matthew Stafford maybe doesn't. So I've got him. Devontae Parker, I've talked about. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Patriots. And he's a guy who Mac Jones can lean on. Who's to say Devontae Parker can't score 10 touchdowns this year? They need that big-bodied guy. That's always been their issue is these receivers. I mean, Jesus, they're throwing a Kendrick Bourne in the end zone. They need a guy that can go up and get the football, and maybe Devontae Parker is that guy. Irv Smith, hey, why not? He could be a breakout, very talented young player. It's just been hit by the injury bug. Robbie Anderson, I think the ADP is too low on him. It's going to go up as the season goes on, and they may get a different quarterback. We talked about this on another show. Don't be surprised if Jimmy Garoppolo or Baker Mayfield isn't the starting quarterback for Carolina come week 1 or Seattle.
And that's the piece of news that will push Robbie Anderson up. If that doesn't happen, his ADP is not going to move, not at all. But if there is a trade, and to your point, like they're a likely team to do it, that'll push his ADP up probably 2 rounds.
Mm-hmm. McKissick, Kenyon Drake, 2 guys at running back who are going to catch passes for me on teams that I don't think are going to be that great. So, hey, you need somebody to score some points. Who's to say they can't go out and all of a sudden 1 week they're in the top 20 because they catch 7 balls. Maybe they get into the end zone. Dwayne, people want to hear what your thoughts on your squad. Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook start. Old school, baby. It's like an old school standard league. Tell me about it.
Yeah, not a start that I use that often. I really considered going Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones just to go ahead and correlate right out of the gate with two potentially good backs. But I don't have exposure to either one of these players yet in my drafts. Like I'm lower than consensus on both. But where I got to get them like right at ADP and then just thinking through what that opens up later because there were plenty of Packers. I did not end up getting a Green Bay Packer to go against Dalvin Cook. So it just didn't work out. Look, and sometimes it doesn't. Like Christian Watson, there was a reach. Sammy Watkins is a guy I've been taking a lot. You snagged him. Alan Lazard goes too far up the board, in my opinion, for where he needs to go. AJ Dillon just wasn't in the mix where I was picking. I did look at Aaron Rodgers, at one point, and I thought about that. But I just, the way I had started with the 2 backs, I needed to keep hitting receivers at the spot where Aaron Rodgers was available since I already had Jalen Hurts. So, yeah, I mean, it ends up it's not my favorite team I've drafted, but overall I like the way I was able to do some correlation, still stay within kind of the way I think about my tiers, the way I look at ADP. But I came back, added so the running back room is Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, added James Cook, Isaiah Spiller, so two young backs. Cook's gonna have standalone value. Spiller probably could get a little standalone value, probably needs an injury to Eckler to really be worth anything. Khalil Herbert, one of my favorite late round handcuffs, got him at pick 155 versus an ADP of 169. So this is what I'm talking about. Like as the draft goes, I'm a little less concerned, about reaching on ADP. And at the same time, I had just taken Jameson Williams at receiver. So now I get kind of a unique potential stack with Chicago and Detroit. Not that I love that game, that I think it's going to shoot out. But I have 2 young players that I like, and Herbert and Jameson Williams. And so we know as the season goes on, that can be when, by then it could be Khalil Herbert starting because David Montgomery's hurt. Like there's just a lot of things that can happen there. And then I came back and stacked the same game with Jamal Williams, just an underrated player. I know we all love DeAndre Swift. But he was just a value at ADP, pick 203, normally ADP of 180. And again, it kind of stacked that Chicago-Detroit game up for me. Anyway, so that's running back room. Receivers, we got Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, Hunter Renfrow, Sky Moore, Jamison Williams, Jamison Crowder, Corey Davis, Byron Pringle. Not crazy, about my wide receiver room. Miami should at least be a 500 team, if not better. Carolina's not a good team. Vegas, I think, will be 500 or right around there. Tough division where they're all going to have to throw the ball a lot. All good quarterback play. So I like getting some exposure to Hunter Renfrow. I don't have any, actually, and he is in a Week 17 game against George Kittle, who I got at a value the round before. So I like getting some Hunter Renfrow. Targets per route run, yards per route run. Actually, we're screaming this guy was eventually going to be a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1. In his first and second year, his underlying data was already saying that. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, Hunter Renfrow just got luck doing a lot of targets. No, actually, he's a really good football player, especially from the slot. He's got a lot of target competition. So I totally get that. But again, a lot can happen in a season. Devontae Adams, older player, could get hurt. Darren Waller was dinged up last year. So, I mean, there's a chance where I'm going to have I could have weeks where Hunter Renfrow's the number 2. I could have weeks where Hunter Renfrow's the number 1 target on the team anyway, with everyone healthy. And then you can have weeks where if you've got injury, he is the wide receiver 2 going into the game for their team. So I like getting Renfrow. Then I went young with Sky Moore, Jamison Williams, trying to grab some upside, to be honest, because I went with the 2 backs early. And then coming back with Crowder from Buffalo, just part of a game stack against Mixon and Cincinnati. James Cook was also part of that game stack. And then Davis and Pringle were just basically where they were sitting. I was looking for talent with Davis. Pringle was more of just an opportunity pick and just stacking that game against Detroit. We already talked about Kittle. I was very happy to get him. I got him at pick 59, ADP of 48. Typically most of the teams I love that I draft, I've got 2 or 3 guys, Drake, that I'm getting like almost a round past ADP. And I'm talking in like rounds 1 through 6 or 7. That's happening. I didn't get that this draft. I didn't get multiple, but I did get Kittle. So I was happy to get that. You mentioned Hayden Hurst. Look, I don't love Hayden Hurst. I think he's the 4th, 5th option, most of the time on the Cincinnati passing attack, but he could give you the spike week upside behind Kittle. I'd much rather him be a tight end 3 type, but if he is ever going to be a tight end 2, this is the type of build I would do it on a team where, I need to be right on Kittle anyway. So I need Kittle to carry the tight end spot for me, but Hurst could come through a few times, and late in the season, he does correlate to that Buffalo game stack. So like my big game stacks, Buffalo versus Cincinnati. And so these are not traditional ways you would stack this game, which I kind of like doing. So then I've got Mixon from Cincinnati. I've got Hayden Hurst from Cincinnati. And then from over on the Buffalo side, I have James Cook. And then I've also got Jamison Crowder. And then my other game stack for week 17. And again, letting these things come to you really is the Chicago versus Detroit game. I've got Khalil Herbert, Jamal Williams. And then I also have Byron Pringle. And I've got Jamison Williams. So there's some different options for the way that game could work out.
When you're drafting, this is something I've seen you do. And if you're listening to this, it's a great exercise, and something that I'm going to be doing going forward is pull up that week 17 NFL.com schedule. Maybe print it out, tape it to your wall before you start drafting, so you can look up, and it's just that little tiebreaker for you, so you can see who's playing who in those big time weeks. So maybe you get lost. It happens so fast, but if you're like, oh man, I got some Denver guys. Who are they playing? Oh, they're playing the Chiefs. Great. Yeah, that's a great tiebreaker. Bears, they're playing the Lions. So it's just something great to think about and just to be prepared. That's something that Dwain has kind of taught me as we've grown together over the years is how to draft better. And hopefully you guys pick up some nuggets from that from this show. I did want to ask you, Dwain, some thoughts on your team and some situations here. The New York Jets, I think the situation around Zach Wilson is great for Zach Wilson. I'm not sure how much it benefits any of these wide receivers, though. And, you went ahead and took Corey Davis. Corey Davis was like the 4th overall pick in the draft one year. And now he's sort of an afterthought on this team that's just spent a lot of draft capital over the past few seasons. Do you think anybody kind of stands out on this Jets team at wide receiver, or is it just kind of going to be this hot hand situation and, who knows week to week what we're going to get?
I'll have plenty of exposure because I like all the players. I had Garrett Wilson graded as my number 1 receiver coming in, to the draft. I don't like the fact that he landed with Zach Wilson because I thought Zach Wilson overall was pretty bad last year. But it was only his first year, right? He could easily turn things around. I like the offensive coordinator there. I love Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore did things in his underlying data points that, really suggest like he's gonna have a good shot at really being a wide receiver one at some point in his career. He's my favorite on the team. I think the ADP is right. Garrett Wilson is next, and then Corey Davis is last. So Corey Davis is just, you got to give yourself outs. Who knows what's going to happen? Either one of those other two receivers could get hurt. If they do, well, Corey Davis is going to be on the field all the time. If either one of those, if Garrett Wilson doesn't come out and play really great, in training camp and everything, Corey Davis could start the season off as the other starting wide receiver opposite of Elijah Moore. And best ball is where I like having more exposure to these types of players, Drake, because I don't have to pick which week it's going to happen for any of them. So Corey Davis for me is just a continued bet on someone we know that has been, he hasn't lived up to his draft capital by any means, NFL draft capital. But there's a lot of ways, right, that he could still come through for a best ball team. He's the opposite of my pick with Byron Pringle. I don't think Byron Pringle's very good. Nothing in my data really suggests that like Byron Pringle's ever going to be this breakout player, but he's got opportunity, right? He should be the starting number 2 receiver opposite of Darnell Mooney. We'll see Velus Jones work in some as well, but most likely Pringle is going to be out there all the time. So and he's cheap. Like Pringle, you're not having to spend a lot like you are like for a guy like, and obviously Lazard and MVS, they have much better quarterbacks. That's why they're going ahead. But like MVS, is getting love that Byron Pringle never got, right? Whenever he was with Patrick Mahomes. So two different thought processes on two different players. But to your point, like I think ADP is right on the Jets receivers. That is the order I would take them. But to your point, there's enough unknown that you probably want to have a little bit of exposure to each one.
I like what you did with Jalen Hurts, not because I'm an Eagles fan, but I'm saying because you have this Konami code type quarterback. You don't really have to do much else around him because I don't necessarily think any of his weapons are going to come through this year. I think A.J. Brown's going to be overdrafted. Devonta Smith, we'll see if he can get more than 5 targets a game. But he can be a week winner and a league winner without having to change your whole draft to get the pieces around him. I like that call there.
You don't have to stack him. I prefer to get one if I can. I'd like to get Devonta Smith or I'd like to get Dallas Goedert to go with Hurts. It just did not work out this draft, which is kind of like whenever I came back with Mac Jones. I made sure at least my Mac Jones pick was correlated with something on my roster, which was Jalen Waddle for week 17.
You had right before you, Kyler Murray went before your Jalen Hurts pick. If Kyler Murray's on the board,
taking Kyler.
You're taking Kyler there.
Yep, absolutely.
I know he's your number 2 quarterback in your tiers, right?
Yeah, so I love Kyler there. I like him a little less in FFPC because of his week 13 bye when you're trying to win your league championship, the playoff round. And a lot of people don't care about that. I think it's a mistake to not care because a lot of your teams are going to be a 3 or a 4 seed over there. And to get into the championship round race for points, you've got to win your league if you're the 3rd or 4th seed. The best record and the best points automatically get a punch a ticket to week 15 through 17 championship round over on FFPC. But over here, I don't have to worry about that. And so, yeah, I think, I've got Josh Allen and Kyler Murray in the top tier. I would have definitely taken Murray. But like Hurts, like it kind of got to that spot. So when it gets to those flat spots in those receiver tiers, and I've heard you feel it several times. I just don't know what one to pick, so I'm gonna take CEH. Right? Yeah. I don't really feel it on any of these guys. Kind of where I've identified those spots in the draft is where if I can pivot and the ADP is not bad to a huge playmaker at quarterback, meaning they can run and throw and they have weapons around them, then I'm gonna do it. And so Josh Allen fits that mold. Jalen Hurts fits that mold. Kyler Murray fits that mold. Like there's not a huge list, right, of guys that can run and also are surrounded with a lot of weapons. Trey Lance fits that mold later in the draft. He's a guy that I've pivoted to when I hadn't liked what was going on at my pick. So I keep those quarterbacks handy, especially for those flatter spots. When we get, you got 10 receivers and you're like, okay, I like them all, but I don't know which one to take. Like a lot of times I will go ahead and take, the super playmaker at quarterback if it's available.
It's almost like there's, we talk about the running back dead zone. There's this wide receiver dead zone, and that this is where you spring and pivot to the quarterback. Let's look where Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray went off the board. So within 6 picks, you had Lamar, Kyler, Jalen Hurts go off the board. the wide receivers who are on the board to be taken there, you're looking at guys like Darnell Mooney, Michael Thomas, who knows, with his injury history. DeAndre Hopkins suspended 6 games. Amon-Ra St. Brown, we like, but I mean, again, how great can he be? Elijah Moore, Hunter Renfrow, who you got, slot guy, Drake London, Devonta Smith. So yeah, I mean, who would you rather have there? Russell Gage, Adam Thielen, or Jalen Hurts or Kyler Murray? Who's going to really separate your team from the competition?
Yeah, and that's why I think it's easy to go, again, not just any quarterback, but if you can get the huge upside as far as their rushing ability and passing. And really the guys that can do that are Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen. Like other quarterbacks we like. I like Herbert. I like Patrick Mahomes. They just don't have the same rushing upside, as these other guys. So it's and if you're looking at guys later, it's Trey Lance and Justin Fields, right? That can do that for you, that you can pivot to in the later rounds. So yeah, I think that's really where I'm at. And I typically will take those quarterbacks rather than taking someone like, for sure, I'm taking those quarterbacks over like Dalton Schultz, even TJ Hawkinson. So it's similar at tight end, right? Mm-hmm. I like Dalton Schultz, but Dalton Schultz is not like this huge playmaker. Like he's going to get forced some volume. He's gotten better every year, but I don't think he's a superstar. He's not on the same plane. Dalton Schultz is going less than a round later than George Kittle. That's just silly. Like I get it. I like Dalton Schultz, but his ceiling is nowhere near George Kittle's. Like George Kittle, if he happens to get fed, 25% of the targets with how talented he is, and he is healthy all year, he could blow the top off of a season. Like Dalton Schultz could be really good. Not to say he could never get to a tight end number 1 overall finish, but man, like that's just too close together. I'm much more. I love those 2 picks. I got 2 huge playmakers at those positions. George Kittle, Jalen Hurts. Those are my favorite 2 picks of the draft. Because I think those are the 2 picks that have the most opportunity, to really differentiate my team and give it just max upside.
It's funny because you talk about how you love the picks there. My picks at almost that exact same spot. After you took Kittle and then Hurts, I settle with CEH, and then the next round I take Hawkinson. 2 guys where I'm like, I mean, yeah, they're all right, but I'm not like jumping up and down. Hey, look at this draft because I came out with CEH and Hawkinson. So yeah, it was a nice job by you. These are always fun to do. The puppy over at Underdog is $5 to get in. This will fill at some point during the summer, $500,000 in prize.
It's already halfway full. That's the beauty of doing the puppies. Like I love Best Ball Mania, because we all want to win $2 million or $1 million. One thing I like about the puppy is they fill up. And so essentially you're kind of locked into playing against people drafting around the same time as you, right? Whereas with Best Ball Mania, it's going to last closer to the season before it really fills. And I do believe over there, I like the advantage of drafting a little later. I think there are certain edges you can squeeze from drafting, now, but you're not for sure what's going to drive ADP or up or down, like the injuries, right? They're unpredictable. And so I like balancing things out using the puppy now, still doing some Best Ball Manias now, but then going to increase like the way I'm drafting and how many of these teams I'm drafting in puppy versus Best Ball Mania will eventually flip to where I'm much heavier over on the Mania side. Right now, I love the puppy because this will fill probably, I don't know how much longer. My guess is by the end of June, this will be filled, maybe before. So you're really drafting against everyone that basically is just going off of like mini camp news. It'll be before training camp even starts. Then your next window will be training camp. That'll be the next puppy. And then there'll be one like right towards the end of the season. We'll see how many puppies they get in this year, but you can draft in all the different windows of the puppy. And you're really, the playing field is kind of leveled because no one's going to get a huge advantage by getting to draft their puppy team, on September 1st with way more information than you. So that's one of the strategies I think about when I think about how I want to balance out my portfolio with the puppies and Best Ball Mania, and obviously love both. So yeah, super thankful to Underdog. Glad that we're partnering up with them, and everybody needs to take advantage, man. Go take the free money. Take the free money.
Free money. Use promo code HUSTLE at UnderdogFantasy.com. Download the app on your phone. We're going to match your initial deposit. First timers up to $100. Put $100 in, get a free $100. boy, oh boy, you can have a lot of fun with the puppy. Best Ball Mania. There's NBA stuff. There's golf. You name it. It's all over Underdog. We're so happy to be partnered up with those guys. And we're going to be doing these drafts all season long. So, Dwain, good stuff. Thought it was a nice little draft here. Again, folks, go over to the YouTube page where we've got other drafts up that we've done. We got an FFPC draft. We've got another Underdog draft that we completed. So you can get kind of a mix and seeing what we're doing in different formats. It's a ton of fun, Dwain. Glad we could squeeze this one in.
Yeah. And we'll be doing more. We will have more. So
stick around, folks. And remember to never get out hustled. Take it easy. See you later.